Let's do those sorts of things and use those to get the most out of that person. Those are examples of personalizing and tailoring because that person gets to be evaluated based on what they actually can do, not based on other things like how well they wrote their resume or how well they had ChatGPT write their resume. Those sorts of things don't tell you how great someone's going to be. And the research has shown that this isn't new. Decades of data tell us don't use a GPA, don't just use a resume, don't use this unstructured, chatty interview. Use a real process. And yet companies still sort of fall back on that, and hiring managers do too. So it helps us to get to those things and really see people. I'll give you a quick example of something that just kind of blows my mind. So most of us have used a chat bot to interact with the cable company, your cell phone company, whatever else. When the hiring process, when candidates interact with a chat bot, strangely enough, they know it's not a person, but 75% of them say thank you at the end of that interaction to a bot. Why? Because it feels fundamentally different. It's hard to quantify the feeling, but after most of us finish applying for a job, you want to throw your computer out the window because it was so terrible experience. So something about that feeling, that sense of being heard and acknowledged matters to candidates. And that's what I mean when I say personalized.
So AI is at that space now where it can be a little bit more personal. And then does it move on to having those human interactions as well in the hiring process? You think there should
Mhm.
be a little bit of both?
Yes, absolutely. So the what's wild is when we actually survey the workforce. We surveyed thousands of workers and candidates in the last 2 years, as well as thousands of employers on a global scale. And you may think that, well, candidates are like, no, don't use that at all. And employers are gung ho about it. And the truth is that both parties are actually pretty good with it early in the process. Details about the job, matching me to something that fits my skills, all those things, we're okay with that. The closer we get to that offer point, though, the point where, hey, Jada, I want you to come work with our company and you're never going to get that part of your life back. So commit now. Like that moment, the more we as HR leaders and recruiters want a human in the mix just to make sure. And the more the candidates do too. They want to make sure they're not just joining a company that can put them through a process, but one that truly cares about who they are. And so both parties have that same sense of, hey, it's okay early on, but the more we get to an actual commitment, we more want a human in the mix. And the data seem to reflect that there's an opportunity there. We ask candidates the number one way they want companies to use AI. We actually ask them, they want companies to use AI in the hiring process is to help match them to a job that fits their skills best. Because they may have found this job on your website, but you have three other ones that are better fits they don't know about yet. They didn't see them. They just saw this job ad. So helping them when they perceive that help outweighs whatever the cost is of using AI, of that automation, that lack of touch, the more they're willing to lean in and say yes.
Amazing. And you talk a lot about these positives. Are there any negatives so far that you've noticed in implementing AI into the HR world?
Every single one of us has heard about bias, has heard about the risk of making poor decisions. And the thing that I'm very careful about, number one, this the advent of AI technology does not change the responsibility that HR and talent leaders have to be the bias experts in the business. You had to do that 10 years ago, 20 years ago, 30 years ago. You have to do that today. You have to be the expert and be watching out for your people, period. That said, what's really incredible to me is that right now, somewhere in the world, someone's hearing this and they talked to a manager this week that said, yeah, I'm not going to pick that person because they didn't feel right. And we know that's code for something, but we can't audit that manager's brain. We can't see what they're thinking. But when AI makes that same decision, oh, yeah, it's not going to pick Jada, but it picks Ben. Why? We can audit the decision and say, oh, look, it thought that men were better.